Okay, folks, we're back for the final little segment here. And want to just mention again, November 25th, we've got another hot show for you folks. Let me just mention that first, next week, we're not going to be on live. We got 3 hours of the Capital Crime video from 7:30 to 10:30. And then on the 14th, next Thursday, we've got a special hour-and-a-half presentation at 9 o'clock. And then on the 25th of November, right there, we've got Justice for the Davidians, May 25th, 7:30. 3 hours of live call-in. We've got several Branch Davidian survivors coming down, Clive Doyle, Catherine Madison, Sheila Martin. And we're going to throw them all in front of you, folks. And I want you to look. I want you people out there that are
to look at the extremists.
I want you to tell Clive Doyle to his face that his 18-year-old daughter deserved to be burned in the so-called compound. And if you think that's justified, then I want you to tell Clive Doyle that on this show on the 25th, live here on the program. Joining us. Yeah, joining us, we've got a familiar face at ACTV and an interesting fellow. I want to just mention that I've done a little bit of, well, let me just give you first Alex Jones over here to my right. He's got Exposing Mass Media.
Exposing Mass Media, that's the key, folks. Got a target on the media. Everything you hear has been filtered, censored, or twisted.
Okay, and to my left over here, we have Shelly Williams. Now, Shelly is you're a Ute Indian. And you had ties to Dennis Banks and Russell Means of the American Indian Movement.
Yeah,
I have to confess that at one time I was a fan of Dennis Banks, but I've read and heard some things here lately that you say are not true.
No, Dennis Banks is actually a great person. He's fighting for the Navajo people, which the New World Order is basically trying to wipe out the Navajo people for that land so that they can keep that mine going that's there, that they're getting the coal, the uranium, and that. So Dennis Banks is real active in that. He's
still alive, and he's pretty
still
solid,
alive.
Though.
He's
not
still a rebel.
Russell Means still alive?
Russell Means is still alive. Both of them have come out with books.
I have actually studied the American Indian Movement in depth. In fact, I have some friends who are members of the Black Panther Party, who I, for the most part, support a lot of their efforts as well.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with some of their
philosophies.
They're on to a lot of the problems that we face, and then Alex here is going to get into some of the in-depth problems that we face.
Yeah, I got factual information, folks, right here.
Oh, wait a minute now, folks. We've got to keep this at a pace that we're. So let me just introduce to the Austin viewing audience, Alex Jones.
Hello, folks.
Shelly Williams. Okay,
Hello.
Just go ahead and just 30 seconds, brief introduction of yourselves. And
I'm Alex Jones, and I just. These guys want to get me on here and tease me. Anyways, right here, folks, this is just a Federal Reserve greenback that Kennedy issued. He was killed just about 4 weeks after this.
Over here.
Oh, over there. He was killed about 4 weeks after. You see the red seal on them. He issued $4.5 billion of these, and he got his head blown off a few weeks later. This happens to any president or anybody that tries to print our own money that's not controlled by the centralized bankers that are mainly based offshore. And just one more little factual information for y'all. You'll hear about these $20 billion mergers. These, and people going, ooh, $20 billion, wow. British Telecom just bought this or that. Folks, this year we're going to pay over $360 billion just on the interest of our debt, our $5.2 trillion debt. So you think about that right there, folks. That's the biggest industry in the world, is just financing our little debt. These bankers run the world, and you never hear about them. And I don't mean your bank down the street. I mean the big banks.
Including Bob Dole, right?
Well, yeah, he loves to get me. See, they're attacking me because well, listen, most of these Republicans, most of these people who've been assassinated for trying to give us these, except for Kennedy, were all Republicans. But you're right. They have taken over both the parties.
You're enjoying the classic videos here on Hanson Archives. Just wanted to take a moment to tell you the money that we get from my book sales are going into paying somebody to put all these up and to transfer them over from VHS to the YouTube channels. Alex Jones and myself snuck into Bohemian Grove. That's what my book's about. There's when we were a lot younger. There's Alex and there's me when we were a lot younger, in our younger days. Actually, that was over 20 years ago. And here is the book, Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy. And if you write the address she's going to put up right here throughout the video, write and send us $25, and I'll sign the book and send it your way, and we will use it very wisely to start uploading these videos, which we have been. That equipment cost me a fortune, and the lady that sits there is costing me a fortune. She's on her way back in here, but we've got all these tapes done so far, and we got hundreds and hundreds of more tapes. When I was the producer for Alex Jones and Jeff Davis and a whole bunch of other good patriots fighting the New World Order, I'll just say one thing: death to the New World Order. It's been 25 years,
Okay,
30
now,
years. For
Shelly,
a lot of
if you
us
would,
fighting.
just a brief introduction of yourself and what you mentioned to me earlier that you were fighting against this so-called New World Order.
Yeah, I've been fighting against the New World Order basically from 1973 at Wounded Knee. We in turn saw what our government, New World Order, was doing at that time in trying to control, because they basically was after the uranium, the mining and stuff, mistreating the people.
Well, let me ask you, where's Wounded Knee? That's South
That's
Dakota?
in South Dakota.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I have, okay. And what was Wounded Knee all about? I
Well-
know it was the American Indian movement. What was the American Indian movement fighting for?
Well, it was fighting basically, it started out with Yellowtail murder, but it escalated with Dickie Wilson, which was the tribal council member or chief, and he was opening up uranium mining in the Black Hills of the Badlands, and what was happening is that he was getting a lot of money from the New World Order to get basically to open up this mining and all this, and promised a lot of jobs and stuff. But what was ending happening is that people were dying. The Lakota people were dying from poison. They would open up a pothole full of uranium, and it would run into the rivers, and people were dying. And our government, behind the New World Order, they didn't care.
Now they call themselves globalists. So when you hear New World Order like Bush used to spout, now Clinton calls it globalist, because they had to change the name. I think that's why Bush got run out of there, because he started saying it will be a New World Order. And they said, uh-oh, and so people got onto that. So now Clinton's up there always spouting globalists for the global community, for the children. And that's what they're headed for, folks. I mean, it's just total greed, total anarchy of their control. It's mob rule from the top down. 1%. 1% controls 100% of everything. And you may have a car and a house or whatever, but believe me, they will try to revoke that at any time if we ever really started to find out what's going on. I mean, right here, folks, is a list of the people who've been assassinated. 7 attempts on Andrew Jackson, who did take the control over from the bankers fully, and he had to have guards all the way around him. In fact, he was one of the first presidents to have a secret security force to guard him. And as we move down, Lincoln was assassinated right after he brought out the greenback, because the big bankers wanted to fully control the Western expansion. James Garfield, that was another assassination attempt. President McKinley, he was assassinated because, he openly, folks, go get a New York Times or something from the 1880s, and you'll read it. Every day people talked about the banks and the money system. Now we've just forgotten about it. Used to, elections were fought over that almost solely because people understood that money and currency was the key to their lives. Now we've just forgotten. We just believe whatever the nightly news tells us, and folks, money is power. We've all heard that old adage, money is the root of all evil. Well, I don't believe that. I believe that evil people, though, tend to get control of the money supply. I mean, going back to
Yeah, but
Babylon.
we have to clarify that it's not like a corporation that makes money.
No.
It's people that print money.
Listen,
That's the power.
Listen, folks, generally
There's a lot of people that don't understand, so it's the people that are printing the money.
Yes, exactly. Well, I mean, that's what this greenback is with the red seal on it. See, President McKinley printed these, Lincoln printed these, and then the last president to print them was no other than Kennedy. All these people were assassinated, folks. You print these bills, you're dead. If the U.S. government starts printing its own money, the person printing it is assassinated. It doesn't matter if they're congressmen or senators. They're found,
Now,
shot in the
let me
head.
just mention this particular bill right here, and we'll get to
zoom into that.
Shelly here in a minute. The reason why the international bankers didn't like it
See the red spot, folks?
is because it's non-interest bearing, which means that the U.S. taxpayers do not have to pay a compounding interest payment on this particular medium of exchange, as opposed to the Federal Reserve note.
We're paying the Federal
which
Reserve.
is a compounding interest payment on every dollar that's
We're
printed.
not paying the Federal Reserve for the privilege of getting money, or from. We're paying the Federal Reserve for the privilege of just having money. You go
That's
pay.
it.
Yeah, I mean, you go pay. You go work
Right.
40 hours a week, get your paycheck. Know this: the government, just to print money, has to pay the Federal Reserve to be able to print that. They control our money supply, folks. And this is one thing that I do. I mean, I am for privatization in most things, except for this one thing, folks. We cannot have our money supply in the hands of a bunch of foreign and elitist bankers, and that is 100%. This isn't stuff of kooks. This is 100% factual. Look it up for yourselves. Find out. Every time this happens, people get assassinated. Every time people try to, in this crooked situation, stuff starts happening.
Okay, on those lines, let me go ahead and tie this in. Now, I was told. Now, you were at Wounded Knee
I
at
was
the
16
time.
years old at Wounded Knee in 1973.
At the time, Dennis Banks and Russell
Dennis
Means.
Banks, Russell
now,
Means.
Now, what about the story going around? And I've read this. In fact, the JBS published this,
Yeah.
and they're not the only ones. That Dennis Banks and the American Indian Movement actually received a $400,000 grant from the federal government, and basically the idea is that they create, by funding the element that's causing the problems, they basically sell out, and then Dennis Banks and his bunch moved into Wounded Knee, created a bunch of chaos, and then the feds move in, create more laws, and
No.
well,
Yeah.
I'm just throwing out
Yeah.
this because this
What-
is how they operate, by creating
Right.
chaos and
Has
funding.
anybody seen the maps? Get yourself a tribal lands map and find out and look on it, and that should be owed to the Indians or more. And look at it. There's all these giant red areas on a green map that are to the tribes. It's like half the size of Texas nationwide or more, and that's their land. So of course the federal government's stealing citizens' land any way it can now. Folks, it's all part of precedent. Right now the federal government's just taking a little land here, tightening down here, doing this and that there, training us that if they stamp the word environmentalist on it, that it's fine to do. That's all part of the slow increments toward being able to steal our land, just like they stole the Indians. These bankers never give it to you forever. They say, okay, folks, you go and take it from the Indians, we'll give it to you. Okay, now you've taken it from them, now it's ours again. Because the American Banking Association sent out memos in 1891 stating their set policy to make farmers tenants on their land, just like it was in England. Why? Because most of this money is coming from foreign English banks. Ask yourself this. Just this week in the news, you've got British Telecom buying one of our biggest telecommunications companies here for $20 billion. Okay, that's an American company all over the world. How is British Telecom buying up one of our companies? That's because they've got all the big banking money. They're making hundreds of billions a year out of nothing. All they got to do is buy our politicians for a few $100 million a year, then they control this whole country's monetary system, and they charge us to print money. They're screwing it to you, folks, and that's why you'll never hear about the press, because it's the biggest industry in the world.
Because they've also bought up the major media.
Oh, the press is, listen,
Yeah.
And we'll
That's
touch
your
on
stated
that in a
aims.
minute here, because that's your basic theme of your show.
Yeah.
Well, I want to just ask you, so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, that's fine. I'm
Alright. Yeah, he's co-hosting it.
Yeah.
But anyway, Shelly, now, okay, I
What took
want to
place?
get back to this Wounded
Yeah.
Knee thing, because I am very intrigued. Maybe you're not familiar with this.
Oh, I know.
But
the,
what
the
year
FBI
did
went
that
machine gunned a bunch of people.
1973.
Wounded Knee, South Dakota. And
Yeah.
what exactly happened?
Well, basically what happened, there was a lot of fallacy that went on about this 400,000 that supposedly Dennis Banks and Russell Means and the AIM members got. Well, they didn't get a damn dime. What it was is it was brought on by the tribal leader, which was Dickie Wilson at the time. He was being controlled by the government because they wanted the Badlands for uranium. They wanted that uranium.
So what was Dennis Banks and what was he?
They were
what
the
was he trying to
starters.
do?
Well, the thing is, Dennis Banks ran against Dickie Wilson in a
He's still
in the
alive,
election.
right?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, Dickie Wilson, nobody's seen him since 1975. Nobody knows where he's at. The government pulled him out, and he's disappeared under protection someplace. But what took place is that they were fighting because of this uranium. People were dying. Okay? There has never been any satisfaction
Well,
to
what
the
happened
Lakota
that
people.
specific day?
Well,
Were Indians killed, or
actually, the thing is on...
did the FBI move in on them, or?
Well, we had the FBI move in. We had National Guard. 1973, what ended Wounded Knee was that Buddy Lamont was the only person killed at Wounded Knee. He was one of the AIM members or Lakota people. He's still buried there. He's the only one that was buried. But the federal government came in and they shot at us. I've got a scar.
What were
across
you
there.
trying to do? Just keep your property and keeping them from
We
coming and
were
taking your...
claiming the knee back as independent property, away from the government, away from the Lakota people, you know, from Dickie Wilson and his little goons that he had up there. Our whole idea was that was ours. That was the free new land that we were going to open up, run it in a very open fashion. It was a very spiritual place. It's still a very spiritual place to this day. So that was just the beginnings of my knowledge of what the New World Order was about and what was happening. I've stayed in with the American Indian movement, been very active in it. I've seen what they've done as far as people, they're destroying the red man. In 1890, when Wounded Knee first happened from 7th Cavalry, over 500 people were killed. It had come in just months prior to that, that the red man or Indian or Native American, whatever you want to call them, I like using the word Native American, it was the federal government's idea to destroy them. To this day, the Native Americans should not even be alive because that's what our government was after. They did not want the red man because the red man had too much freedom, or they didn't understand the red man, but they knew that in later years, 100 years, 200 years, the red man is the one that would bring the people together. All four colors of people, red, white, black, yellow, all of them together through spirituality. Their religion is not written down. Our religion is not written down. So their plan was by 1830, 1840, or 1930, 1940 is the earliest. Red man wasn't even supposed to be on this earth anymore.
Who were they that was trying to eliminate?
Basically, New World Order,
The international banking.
The establishment,
international
Right.
banking.
Right.
They keep the red man in poverty constantly.
And this is something else I wanted to say. People, you drive your Cadillac, you make $100,000 a year. Everybody makes money. It's not a big deal. You think you're part of the establishment because you can dress nice. And
They're allowing them to do that.
Yeah, exactly. You think you're
Right.
part of the establishment? Folks, you're down in the lower percentage. We're talking about 1% of the population controls 90-something% of the wealth in this country, and all you are is a slave to the establishment. And if we continue to let this corruption continue, it's going to pervade everything. And I mean, look what we did to the Indians. Look what we did to the African Americans. Look what certain institutions have done all over the world. No matter what, power corrupts. Absolutely, power corrupts. Absolutely. And what we're doing is allowing this to continue. And it's been proven, folks. I mean, they control this country, and they'll kill anybody that gets in their way. I mean, you know, if you get any clout, any power, and who they kill is people who are in positions of power. presidents, senators, people that really
Oh,
get
I don't
to it.
know. They'll send young 18-year-olds to go fight in Vietnam.
Exactly,
and free.
exactly. Yeah.
They'll do crap. They'll do.
Well, like that's the old.
For my personal opinion is too that they're at least on the surface supporting the abortion clinics.
Well, see, that's the oldest trick in the book
To get people to.
is it's been proven that going back 1,000 years, France and England used to get together and say, okay, well, we're having some problems, let's have a war. And they'd have a 100-year war because as soon as revolution cranks up, that was the old way of handling it. Let's have a Vietnam, let's have a whatever, let's send the troops off. And that's the best way of social control, folks, is you find an enemy outside, you point it and you say, okay, that's the problem. And people quit focusing on what's going on at home.
What's really going on.
And exactly, now we're being given all these little petty things to worry about, this or that, or, your sexual orientation. People, who cares? Forget about all that. Get involved in your monetary system, in your land rights, in your spiritual rights. Don't let them sell you out anymore.
Fact is, we're all, unless you're,
We're all in the same boat.
Yeah.
unless you're
That's
aware
right,
of it, majority of people are being tremendously manipulated.
I've heard a lot of really rich
Oh,
people.
yeah. I mean,
you got to have over $1 billion to be even near their club.
Well, I agree with that because you look at they've brought in HIV.
Well,
They
that's
brought
what
in-
we.
They brought in.
This is proof, folks. They're bringing in 50. Clinton this year brought in
We've heard that
50,000
before,
illegal
yeah.
immigrants that had felony records. They are importing, both parties, that is true. Immigration just skyrockets no matter what administration. They just, it's a problem. And I'm not against people from other cultures, but they ought to bring in the people that don't have a criminal record. They're bringing in murderers and killers that are being dumped off by Fidel, by whoever, people in Central Africa.
But that plays into their hands because then they can create some laws, some more chaos.
Exactly. See,
that's what they're trying to do.
Do you have? You're stating that. Do you think that they're behind the HIV, or or at least the AIDS?
I
I
think they're behind the HIV/AIDS thing. A few years back, disease popped up in the Four Corners area that. They blamed it on a flea. They blamed it on the squirrel.
The green monkey in Africa.
They bring this all in. There's no cure for it. The whole idea is the New World Order was behind this to sit down and destroy the Navajo people.
Oh, do you think it's just? Well, no way. It's much.
Well, it's not
bigger
just
than
that.
It's
I mean,
much
hell,
bigger.
Because they
Listen to
this
this
fellow over here. It's much bigger than that.
Oh, I know,
Listen, no, I mean, he's talking about his own little, But what I'm saying is this, folks, is you can get into all this other stuff and you can say, okay, that's a bunch of bull. It has been proven the AIDS virus looks just like a engineered virus. It looks like they took a normal little cold.
In fact, do you know the actual story behind it is? Now, I don't know if this is true, but the story behind it is in 1979 on a naval hospital in Maryland, they actually financed some some scientists to create a virus.
We put tens of billions of dollars a year into biological warfare of a non-chemical nature.
Because they needed it. They needed it. What this does is first off, it eliminates a certain amount of the population, then it creates chaos.
All I'll say to you is
that's the way it is.
What does Prince Philip say? Prince Philip isn't a young man. He's the husband of Queen Elizabeth in England, and then the Dutch royal family, Dutch royal Shell, and all that. They're all called Malthusians. They believe Africans don't have a right to live. They believe people in South America should die, and that's why the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, this is all factual, folks, will not loan money to South American, Central American, and African countries for development unless they have a certain quota of sterilization and birth control for their women. I mean, they come in and they cut the ovaries out, folks. So this is happening. This is happening all over. A few years ago, they had a large women's conference in Beijing, China. I mean, that's one of the worst places in the world where women are nothing there. They're like dust on the ground. But, let's run off and have a huge UN women's conference there and act like Beijing's wonderful. It's like they're practicing this stuff, like a doctor would practice medicine, like a lawyer would practice law. They're practicing evil. And that's what they're doing, folks. And it's all because they control the monetary supply. And that's not enough. I meet people all the time who say, well, the Federal Reserves work pretty good. If you call your taxes going from 2% in 1950 to 33, 40%, depending, not counting state and local. If you call that good, then I got a bridge I want to say. Come over here and I'll say something.
Let me clarify. First off, if you're judging it on how much materialistic things that we have on the surface, Alex, that appears to be the case.
Exactly.
They,
manufacturing.
But the fact is that they understand how to control slaves.
Bread and circus, folks.
Yeah, they don't care if you have a car and a house that's supposedly under your.
But we're going to scan your thumb when you go get a driver's
They don't
license.
care if you have, and they are controlling our food and air water systems as well, though. but they're giving the slaves some, but I mean,
Let me qualify that. They're
let me
not
just-
putting stuff in it.
let me just
but
mention though, Alec,
they do control it.
even the slaves in Egypt had basic food, water, and shelter, as in Rome, and
As here,
as here. I mean, just because they're allowing you to have some basic necessities of life doesn't mean that we're not enslaved. People don't a lot of people don't understand that. They base everything on how much that they got a new car or new. But the fact is, if you look at the whole situation, we are totally enslaved. In fact, our tax situation right now is like 52%.
Yes.
And back in the old feudalism days, Shelly, I mean, the feudal serfs only gave 25% of their income to their masters.
That's right.
only gave 25% to the sheriff.
So what does that make us?
Well, we're
Exactly,
slaves as
exactly.
far as
I mean,
I'm
if we're-
concerned.
So they give you some cars and some food.
and they make you feel like
shelter.
you're part of the establishment.
Yeah, make you feel real
Yeah.
good, give you nice heights. But the fact of the matter is, folks, just like Rome, Egypt, everywhere else, that's an illusion of prosperity, financed
because
by
you don't have your real freedom.
That's right. They've taken everything else away from you and given you some material things.
And I mean, listen. I mean, I'm not knocking material things. And when Jeff,
No, I'm not either.
listen, Jeff.
That's not the point, though.
Jeff has been doing this show longer than me, and he gets more technical into the nuts and bolts of things. I like to attack basic things that are right in front of your face, like our monetary system is controlled by a private organization.
Yeah, but a lot of people, you have to explain that.
Yeah, I
Alec,
understand.
You have to explain that just, because a lot of people, if they have a house and a car, that's in their
They think
mind,
they're,
that's it.
Listen, folks, if you're making, like I said again, if you're making $1 million a year, you're nothing. You're nothing. Okay, I'm telling you that. I have some money, and I'm telling you, folks, there's people that are just bathing in money, control whole countries.
Well, by the way, I got to interrupt just for a minute here. I got to, now, to avoid any, I'm assuming you are both against what the feds did in Waco, Texas.
Yes, I
Yeah.
am.
Okay.
Well, I tell you this, I don't know what went on with, and I know this. I've seen them. I don't trust the media for one reason. 5 years ago, I started watching C-SPAN, and I learned this real fast, folks. I learned that you'll see something happen on the news, and then I would have seen it already on C-SPAN, which is a governmental channel. I've seen something happen. It's not a difference of opinion. It's a fact. And then I've seen it come out the other end of the media completely different. So when I heard how mean the Branch Davidians were and all that, sure, if I took what the media said, I'd say good thing what they did. But folks, it's wrong, even if that was true, for tanks. The media told us that lanterns fell over. I saw those tanks driving halfway into that building. I saw the
That's
smoke come
right.
out. I saw them, and this is a fact even that I saw
And
during...
remember, they did it for the kids.
Listen
the
to
thing is, how do they
Yeah.
know a kid wasn't on the other side of that?
Listen to this, folks.
Yeah,
Listen.
yeah.
They wanted an example. They wanted to show people that any anti-government movement, no matter who you are, is not going to be tolerated. It was an example. And here is one thing.
Hey, we've got them black helicopters that you don't like floating across there.
I see them. Listen.
Yeah, that looked
Listen,
great.
You
listen.
ever heard about them black helicopters?
Yeah.
Folks, there is one thing that is unequivocal. I saw this in Arlen Specter's Senate hearing. This is real. This is on, in our government in Washington. This isn't bull. I know you didn't hear about it on Tom Brokaw for anybody. This is true, folks. They pumped a deadly, toxic nerve gas. It wasn't a tear gas. It was a mild nerve gas into the compound by the hundreds of square.
Into the house.
Yes,
Alice.
yes.
Let's get it straight.
Yes.
It was a house.
Into
Yeah,
the
into
house,
the
yeah.
house,
Let's
yes.
not use the compound word
is a
is the
terrible
media.
thing.
And folks, that stuff is highly flammable, and when it ignites, it forms almost pure cyanide. Most of the people in the house were killed by cyanide. Now that was in your own Senate hearings. That was in your own Senate hearings. You don't want to believe it? Then don't, okay? Just believe whatever the crap they hand you and be a slave. Folks, they're pumping poison and driving tanks into buildings. This is real.
Yeah,
That's all I have to say. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Did you have a? Go ahead, Shelley. Did you have?
Well, I look at it in this way, that they were a spiritual group practicing their rights to freedom of religion and
what
that.
this country's supposed to be
They
about.
also, I know for a fact that they had four or five people in there that had licensed gun.
Yes, they did.
And none of the guns were
dealership.
illegal.
Yeah.
That none of the guns were illegal. That's something that has been brought up from the 60s. They stopped automatic weapons, fully automatic weapons, and then all of a sudden, they handguns, and then you sit down and semi-automatics.
But you're
Well,
not a loving person. You're
wait a
obviously
minute.
for violence and death. You
Wait
don't
a
love
minute.
the...
Wait a
the
minute.
government
I
will
love
keep
everybody.
The
but
government will keep
I'm
us
saying
safe. The
is
government
that,
loves us.
that the New World Order is
teasing
out
you.
to sit down and have every gun from the American people. You might not believe it, but started
most
back in the 60s.
They're scanning our thumbs, folks. I mean, when you go get a driver's
Yeah,
license.
just a minute here. Yeah, are we ready with the
Yeah, let's take some calls.
You know,
Okay.
go from the
Yeah, but-
60s
okay.
up.
Well, I'm glad.
19,
I'm glad to hear you all say.
1998, you ain't going to be able to own again.
Well, let me just ask you briefly then. So, what do you think
got the
they're?
liberals in the
Are
back.
they going to win? Are they going to get their new world order?
They got
Just
it.
a quick.
They got it.
Well,
They got it, buddy.
they've got it, but
All they got to
it
do is
can be
confiscate
stopped.
the guns, and it's over. As soon as
That's
they can,
it.
As soon as they can get enough pansy know-it-alls, just go, my congressman knows what's right. I'll be safe once there's no guns. Folks, that's why they've been
They're
flooding
out
guns.
to sit down and get that.
But you said that you don't think it ain't over with yet.
It's
They wanna
not
tear
over
this
yet.
I'll never
Constitution
say
up.
that it's over with.
I'm not
It's
saying that we're total
not
slaves.
over
I'm
with.
just saying that
Oh,
they,
I say we're total slaves.
no, they got the, no, see, Jeff just thinks you would disagree, and that's, no, listen.
No, but I mean,
Folks,
but they'd like to increase the.
They control all the major institutions 100%. They tax us 7 ways to Sunday because they got greed.
My information is they want a chip in your hand, Alex.
Well, I'll tell you this, folks. All I know
Are you
is
gonna
this.
take that chip?
Listen, 20 years ago, no, listen.
Well,
Joe-
I got a
You gotta
question
put it-
to ask him, though.
No,
You
listen, listen,
Really?
20 years ago, 20 years ago, folks, 20 years ago, people were getting pissed off about having to have
Too much head.
a picture on your driver's license, and that's reasonable, folks. But now when you go get your driver's license, there's a little black box sitting there, like something out of a science fiction movie, and they scan your thumb. You're in the computer. Now, you're not a criminal. There's been some problems. We need to take care of this. And folks, they started that thumb scanning in Sweden and in Switzerland about 15 years ago. Now, guess what, folks? They're putting transmitters in kids' hands over in Europe.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so next it's going to come over here. Now, if you think this is bull, go down to the driver's license and find out. Get that. Next, find out somebody that's lived in Sweden or in Switzerland. Find out that they're trying to encourage people to have their kids done in the name of in case they get kidnapped. Sure, that's a good idea. If it wasn't such a manipulated plan, they test this stuff out over in those rich bigwig countries over there in Europe where the bankers emanate from. You know, Swiss bank account. You've heard of that, folks? Listen, that's where the money presses are built and designed, and that's where all the exclusive patents are, is Switzerland. That's where all these ideas come from. They infiltrated England. Now they control the whole world. So you think this is a bunch of crap? Go ahead, think you're part of the establishment and drive your nice car. And I'm saying,
Feel real good.
yeah, and just feel real good and just know that your money, know that a bunch of presidents like Kennedy and other people have had their heads blown clean off. Look at this note right here. It's got, see?
Yeah, flip. That's the United States note. That's a critical, such a critical.
This is a
You
United
familiar with this show? This is a
Oh,
United
yeah.
States.
This
note.
is a United
Not a
States
Federal
greenback,
Reserve
folks. You
note.
ever see any red on a bill? That's because they wanted
It
you to
even
know
says
this is
United
our
States.
bill, not the banker's bill. We don't pay interest to have these.
That's right.
These are our
that's
money, folks, right
We
here.
know, we
And
know.
here's all the people that have been assassinated.
That's
Look at all
it.
those names on there, or attempted
Yeah,
assassinations.
you can't see them, but they're on there.
Yeah, they're all.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
just
You
dozens.
know about that,
Oh,
huh,
yes.
Shelly?
Oh, yeah.
You know about
So, folks,
that.
you think about that. Folks,
You know about that. huh?
folks,
know.
you think
Oh,
about
yeah.
that right there. That's who's controlling this
I
country.
probably got 5 or 6 of those that have a little red.
And you know about the banking thing?
And folks,
all
this
Oh
that?
isn't
yeah, I've
grandstanding.
heard about the banking thing. You know, the
Next time
banking
you
thing,
hear about
know,
some big
Well, that's
merger
the
for
power.
$5 billion,
You
you know,
you're
it's
going,
like
wow, a lot of
what
money.
it costs
You
to
think
make
about
a dollar bill.
you. Next time you hear about that, folks, you think about the simple fact, folks. I mean, just think about it. All these, look, Andrew Jackson, 7 assassination attempts. And anybody knows Andrew Jackson, he was pro-American. See, a real leader wants the people to be free so they can do whatever the hell they want as long as it doesn't hurt somebody else. And then you got free spirit, and that's a real leader that sees people growing and living and having a good life. These people have to hide behind closed doors, control our monetary system to the tune of just interest payments, $360 billion is going to be this year. $360 billion out of our $5.2 trillion debt.
Yeah, but
That's why
Alex,
the debt's never going to go down because
Yeah,
they,
but Alex, of course, it's in our best
we
interest.
can take the calls.
But it's in our best interest.
Well, of course, because we don't know how to
all-
manage our money. We must have scientific control of recessions. We can't let the mad howl of democracy have control. We can't let those foolish little people have control. We must tax them and show them the way and have a war here for them and have something here for them and tax a new tax. Your taxes are only going up, folks. Soon we will be a feudalist system.
Soon.
Well-
I just said 50% of our income's going to the mass slave
Whereas the
market.
average
Yeah.
English
It's
servant only.
already there.
We're already totally enslaved. In fact, I mean, just the right to have one of these cars.
Well, Jeff,
You know that I mean, you
Yeah,
have to get
you-
it
Jeff,
inspected.
worse
You
are-
have to
You
get
gotta
it.
pay taxes, you
insurance,
gotta get insurance, you gotta have a driver's license, you gotta have
Folks,
this.
And then when you get out there, you have people
folks,
watching
worse
you with,
than folks,
with radar guns and.
folks. The worst part of it is this though. Our monetary system, we are enslaved in our monetary system, but listen,
Yeah, I see.
listen, our monetary system is enslaved, but the worst part is
Let's-
most
Let's
people's
take the break real quick.
most people's brains are.
No, we're gonna take the break. Then if they want us to talk, they'll stay on the line.
Folks,
Take the breaks.
people don't even know about this, folks. Nobody talks about it, and nobody cares, and that's the
Okay,
scary part.
Alex Jones, Shelly Williams. We'll be back in about 5
We'll
minutes.
be back, buddy.
And we're gonna take these calls and we'll wrap up the show here. We got about another. Well, we got 20 minutes. We'll take about 5
That's
minute
more
break.
fun.
We'll be back. Stay on the lines, folks, and we'll take your calls when we get back.
There you go.
Hello, folks. We are back, and we've got just about 15 more minutes. I want to just mention. We'll get to the calls in a minute. I've got to ask you this because I've been. Tell us about White Buffalo.
White Buffalo. The White Buffalo was born in 1994, and she brought messages and hope to many people and many spiritual people. And the
It's also a
spiritual
B movie.
people and the medicine people got messages from her. And she had predicted messages to these people as, one, destruction due to the New World Order, starvation, fires, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions. But she also had made predictions that through the spirituality of people, a uniting of the four colors in all religions, uniting together as one, they can overthrow the New World Order
That'd be good.
and bring it back to peace, love, and harmony where everybody is equal and not controlled by money and monetary and land and all this. So that was the most important thing that she had
She was
delivered
born when? It was a.
in 1994.
She's 2 years old.
She's 2 years old.
How could she deliver all of that in 2 years? In 2 years.
Quite easily, she had those messages. It goes back to 19 generations when the first white buffalo calf woman brought the sacred pipe to the Lakota people.
We talking about a buffalo or a person?
This was she had turned from a person to a white buffalo as she left, but she had brought messages that
Oh, this
there
is
would be a
just old Indian
European.
legend.
Is this an Indian legend?
This is a truly Indian legend, but she had brought 19 generations ago, 600 years ago, she had brought the message that a European force with people, white people with lots of money would come and invade this land. That they would eventually control or take over through money, power, and stuff to control the land, the people, slavery. When the white buffalo calf was born in 1994, she did come back and she had delivered some messages saying that these prophecies would happen. In 2 years, these prophecies that she had brought in 1994 have already started. The river's taken back over, but this is all controlled from the New World Order and the little things that are up in the air that we have that we call satellites and all this. Weather changes. Weather, that was one of the things that she had said was going to happen. Well, it's being controlled by this New World Order from these little things up in the sky, that we call satellites. People
agree
might
with
not
that.
believe this, but it actually does happen. It's been seen in 2 years. The prophecies that she has done has brought to these people have already started happening. Fires in California, all up and down the West Coast. Earthquakes increasing. Rivers, flooding. She predicted flooding in 1996. Well, we've had a lot of flooding down in the South and the East Coast. She also predicted that there would be 16 hurricanes in 1996. Well, what are we on? Number 13, 14 now that have hit this year? So the things are happening, but those are being controlled and happening from them little satellites up there, which is, it takes $1 billion to send a satellite up. Where's the money come from? It's coming from the New World Order. It's not coming from our government. It's not coming from us paying taxes.
Well, actually, it
coming from
probably is coming from us. They steal from us
they
to
steal, yes.
use it against us. Okay, Alex, quickly. Well, he's got an announcement he's going to do.
Yeah, I was just going to say this, folks. I don't get into the spiritual realm of things, everything.
It's an interesting conversation.
No, it is. I just don't get into that. I get into factual stuff, like the greenback, like us issuing our own money in this country, like we used to do. Factual stuff like that. On my show, Exposing Mass Media, I will use stuff like bills and information. You will see factual information that you can get on the internet, on the House webpage. Get it for yourself, stuff like that. I'm gonna start having some guests in the next few weeks, and I think I'm gonna have Jeff on just this Wednesday. Me, Jeff, and Galen Ross, who was an ex CIA agent. You know, I mean, he has all the proof. He's written several books. He's an old gentleman. In fact, I've actually read about him in some other books that are just books about the history of the CIA. He's like 70-something years old. He's a very nice gentleman.
Oh, he's not that old.
Oh, yes, he is. That's what it says in his book.
Not that old.
But that'll be on this same channel, Channel 10, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. this Wednesday. And Jeff will be on the show with Galen Ross probably.
What's the date on that? Can you tell us? Because this is on tape in Fort Worth.
Yeah, that's right.
This is on tape in Fort Worth?
Yeah, this is being cablecast from Fort Worth.
Hell, I don't know. Today's the 4th.
By the way, I've got to
6th.
mention, folks, that this show is non-copyrighted. We need to put that on a slate.
Well,
And that anybody that like Channel 46 on Fort Worth Cablevision can,
Or the desert of California.
yeah, that one station in California that's picking us up. This is non-copyrighted. You all feel free to go ahead and slap her up there as much as you want.
Well, folks, let's take some of those calls.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
we
I.
gotta get to the call.
Like I said, folks, I don't. I'm sure there's all kinds of,
Keep it
stuff.
short on the calls, Cal.
Yeah, I mean, there is all kinds of stuff going on in this world, but I like to focus right in on what's real. Like you paying up to a 30% tax bracket just in the federal area, not counting your Social Security tax, not counting the state and local and all the fines and fees you pay.
Hello.
Find out about it.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, hi, Jeff.
Hey, what's going on, Terry?
Yeah, this is Terry Liberty Parker.
What's-
Hello, Alex.
Hey, buddy, how's it going, Terry?
You met Shelly.
Come up, Terry,
Say hi to
guy.
Shelly.
And Shelly, hi.
Hello.
Well, I guess one way to kind of bring an interesting focus on this is it's going to be at least until the middle of the next century, if not before, or if not after that, before we can have what it takes to project a viable civilization off the face of the planet and out into the asteroid belt where there's minerals and stuff. And what that means is we now are at this kind of choke point in human history. We now have the means to do ourselves in.
The crossroads.
We didn't have those means to do ourselves in previous centuries. We do have the means to do that now. We have enough technology to really screw ourselves royally, but not quite enough to project a viable civilization off the face of the planet. Now, what that means, boys and girls, is we can't do it the same way that we've done in the past. In the past, we could screw up and we'd mess up a valley or something like that, but now we can mess up the whole place and make it impossible for all of us to live. So one of the ways to avoid the screw-up is to quit going to Big Daddy government and asking for favors.
So we can give something bigger a chance to screw things up. That's what government always does.
Yeah, well, I mean, this trait within us is we're going to need two traits. One is the ability to stand on our own 2 feet and be independent and individual, but also the ability to deal with each other on equitable terms. And if we don't make that jump, if we decide that the only way we can deal with life is to run to somebody else for help, usually government, or the only way we can deal with the other people around us is to either bully or be bullied. If that's our only paradigm, we're cooked. We're not going to get off the face of this planet. We're going to cook ourselves right here. That's my view of where we are now, and it happens to be a view that's pretty much supportive of the very central element that the Libertarian Party supports, which is a physical aggression truce.
What do you think about Ron Paul for Congress?
Say again?
What do you think about Ron Paul?
Well, you know, we don't have, the Libertarian Party doesn't have a candidate in that race. Ron Paul is advocating the repeal of the federal drug prohibition. He's the Republican candidate. You would have expected the Democratic candidate to take a position of, if he wanted to beat up Ron Paul for maybe having waffled around on that issue or something, you would have expected the Democratic candidate to say, well, no, Ron, you're not going far enough. But no, the Democrat candidate is actually taking a more harsh warrior, drug warrior position. Let's suspend more civil liberties. Let's see what else we can do to give the police state more power. That's the Democrat candidate, folks.
I mean, this isn't because we want to do
We've actually
drugs.
got I appreciate your call, Terry.
Yeah, thanks. But I mean, I don't use drugs, but I agree. And I didn't used to believe this, but so much, $120 billion.
Bring up the next. Go ahead, Alex.
Hello?
Bring up the next call. Go ahead.
Hey, hurry.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
You're on.
Waiting a long time.
Only got a minute and a half.
Yes, I was inquiring if you had any more information on that show that you have on ACTV, No ID Found.
That's
Do
it,
they
that's
have any newer versions of that?
Yes, sir. Call the comment line. Do we have the
All
comment
right,
line?
surely will.
Okay, a lot of us
Y'all
came
doing a
through
great.
already.
Yeah, I know
Tell me,
that.
tell me.
Okay, let me just.
Wrap it up.
Yeah, we need to wrap it up. Shelly Williams, appreciate you coming on. I want to go ahead and give you the way. You've only got about 30 seconds
Call
for
us on
both
the
of
comment
you.
line with any questions.
And we are scheduled for your program.
Yeah, this
at
Wednesday.
10.
This Wednesday,
Is
right
that
here.
10 or 16?
10.
10.
Okay, 10.
Same
And
channel, folks.
Alex Jones, 30 seconds, bro. What do you
Folks,
want to
I
tell
didn't get
me?
involved with this for, I mean, I'm living a pretty good life. I'm pretty happy. I'm tired of the lies in media, and I found out, man, the biggest industry in this world now is just fleecing America. These bankers have got it set, and they're screwing it. It's real. See you.
Shelly?
Well, next time, yeah, I agree. The bankers and the New World Order, it's got to stop. We've only got about 3 years left
It's
before
got
they
a new
take
term.
over.
It's now called globalists, folks, and this is real stuff. This isn't a joke. I saw the CFR, Council on Foreign Relations, which most people, you say to somebody, they say that doesn't exist. Kooks make that up. What do you mean? I saw a meeting on C-SPAN with our head UN envoy Madeleine Albright on there. I mean, it's real, folks. I mean, I saw Chairman of the World Bank, Mr. Wolfson, on C-SPAN talking about how this year they're going to write stronger world government powers. I mean, it's a bunch of old degenerate money. And I don't mean somebody who's worth $100,000 down the street from you who drives a nice car. That person's not a problem, folks. They can soon live their lives.
I have a feeling, Alex, that history will show that kook will replace the term heretic.
Exactly. Kook,
Yeah.
Kook will
Yeah.
return the... Yeah, we're heretics.
God bless you,
Yeah.
brother. God bless
Take care,
You're
Jim.
right.
Take care,
You're
my
right.
friend.
This
Bye,
Wednesday, folks.
Bye-bye.
Come on, anybody want to come up here? All right, that's it. All right, who wants to lead it? Let Gene go. Go ahead. Yes, sir. All right. God bless the Republic. Yeah.